Welcome, and thank you for joining us for this 8th session of our Founder City programming. I'm Kimmy Andrulonis, Director of Operations at Betamore. Betamore and the Frederick Innovative Technology Center have joined forces to bring the Maryland entrepreneurial community this hybrid conference event and pitch competition, Founder City. If you check out foundercity.com, you'll find more information about the virtual content that we've been curating each week and also more about our pitch competition, open to all Maryland-based startups. Again, the website is foundercity.com, so check it out today and don't forget to register. Today's session is focused around social impact and company culture, the observations, experiences, and best practices to keep in mind in growing your own company in a positive and inclusive way. So thank you to everyone for your involvement in today's discussion. We have three panelists joining us today. We're grateful for what we've really been able to provide to our community here in Maryland and the part that you guys are all playing to make this happen. So let's get it started. Stephanie, thank you for joining us today. I'm going to start with Stephanie Chin. So Stephanie is the Hutch Program Manager at Fearless. Fearless is a full-stack digital services firm here in Baltimore with a mission to create software with a soul. Their Hutch program is an intensive 24-month program that gives entrepreneurs a blueprint for building successful digital service firms by empowering them with the tools, mentorship, and peer support they need to have a lasting impact. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us. Please tell us a little bit more about your role at Fearless, the Hutch program, and kind of what led you there.
Hi, Kimmy. Thanks for having me today. It's really nice to be here with such great panelists and folks who are really enthusiastic about the community and social impact. So, Kimmy, as you had mentioned, I'm the program manager for Hutch, which is a program and entrepreneurship incubator within Fearless, which is a software development company here in Baltimore. So we are a Baltimore-based 2-year intensive program that incubates and supports entrepreneurs who are interested in digital services and federal government contracting. We recognize that a lot of government projects could be delivered more effectively, more efficiently, and in order to really be able to make the type of impact that we want to be able to see in government, it's going to take not just Fearless, but a lot of other companies who are mission driven and who really care about doing this work. So we started Hutch back in 2019 and successfully piloted that incubator program. And we invest very deeply into the entrepreneurs that we're nurturing as part of our 2-year program. We're building mentorship, we're building a network for them, we're building a physical space for them in Baltimore. And so we really want to be able to support entrepreneurs who want to get into the federal government contracting space to be able to impact society in a larger, more effective way. So I'm really happy to be here today. I think what led me here is the common theme in all the work that I've always done has been around supporting entrepreneurs. That's what I love to do. It is my passion for sure. And so prior to coming to Fearless, I was actually running an entrepreneurship center out of the Maryland Institute College of Art in Baltimore. So specific to creative entrepreneurs, artists, and designers. But I love supporting entrepreneurs and working with them to be able to turn their ideas and their passions into reality. And that's what brought me here to Fearless.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So Katie, we're actually going to talk about you a little bit next. Katie Leonard is the Director of People Team and Culture at Simple Technology Solutions. STS is an 8A hub zone company that specializes in enterprise cloud transformation with a commitment to economic growth and social impact in communities. Katie focuses on transformation alongside men and women who are sometimes overlooked. Before her role at STS, Katie actually started her own social enterprise, which I believe still continues on. So Katie, please feel free to share a little bit more about your role at STS. Also, if you could explain exactly what a hub zone is, that would also be great as well. And your journey leading up to this point.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm super excited to be here. And so first, before I forget, Hub Zone is a historically underutilized business zone. That is a designation from the Small Business Administration to really revitalize and enhance, communities that are disadvantaged, that might be underfunded or underinvested. So it's a economic development driver and a designation that federal government contractors can seek to go after certain set aside contracts. Yeah, so I joined Simple Technology Solutions in the summer of 2020, right during like peak COVID-19, and have grown in the company to become the director of people, team, and culture. And that's really just focusing and creating deep intention around the candidate experience, our employee experience, professional development. What do people's life cycle look like with the company? And really being intentional about our diversity, equity, and inclusion, among our whole team.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. So Matt King, thank you for joining us today. Matt is actually on our board here at Betamore, our board of directors. So Matt is the executive director of the Harlem Park Community Development Corporation here in Baltimore. The Harlem Park CDC is committed to ending the disparate impact in their communities, and they strive to reach new heights of success by producing financial literacy, affordable housing programs, and health-related initiatives to the residents in Harlem Park and other communities in Baltimore. Their programs serve a fundamental role for individuals and families as they embark on the journey to reestablish their lives, rebuild their position as stakeholders, obtain employment, and become productive citizens within their communities. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. And I'd love for you to also add a little bit more about yourself and the Harlem Park CDC.
Thank you, Kimmy, for that great introduction. Honestly, I don't know what else to say from what you guys just mentioned about me and the organization, but my name is Matthew King. I'm a Harlem Park resident. I'm actually the founder, president, and executive director of the Harlem Park Community Development Corporation, which is an organization that I founded back in 2018. You gave a great synopsis of what we actually do. Just to take a snapshot of it, we just go ahead and implement community-based initiatives and programs to better the quality of life of the residents that we serve in Harlem Park, which is in West Baltimore. And we do that through our healthy living initiatives. We do that through our youth development, which is our 4-H club that we have in a partnership with Harlem Park Elementary School. And we also do that through our affordable housing options and our healthy living initiatives that we have. So I'm thankful for this opportunity again, and I'm glad to be here for this conversation.
Awesome. Thank you. Again, thank you everybody for joining us. So I want to get right into it here. Obviously, as you saw by the title slide, we are talking about social impact and company culture. So I think we all agree that they go hand in hand, no matter what industry. And so the first question I want to ask everybody here and kind of talk about, Katie, I'm going to start with you. I'd like to ask you, so what are some of your observations on the landscape? And also, what are you seeing or experiencing today in regards to social impact in the community, in our city, in our state, and at STS?
Yeah, overall, I think I hate that when people say this is an unprecedented time. I think that's super played out, but it really is.
It's so true.
As cliche as it might be. And so we've seen with COVID-19 how it has decimated minority communities and disenfranchised communities and put a magnifying glass on disparities and inequalities that people have existed or that have existed in communities and that people have experienced for a really long time. And so it's important now in terms of our observation that we don't overlook that or say, oh yeah, we know about it, we're just going to do this other thing or operate in terms of like business as usual, but to actually take our business, our strategies, our passions, and be impact focused to address those things that have been brought to light, whether that's housing, homelessness, career mobility, career pivoting. You saw the decimation of certain industries where people have lost jobs. And so it's important for us to, at STS, we create career on-ramps, whether it's through our apprenticeship program or just pouring into our team members. So how are we transformative with our actions, with our strategies, and with our resources in light of what we now know and we can't put a rug over anymore?
Yes, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that. Stephanie, I'm going to go to you next.
Yeah, Katie, I completely agree. I love how you said it puts a magnifying glass on some of these things that we're seeing and feeling in community, because these are deep-rooted issues that we've experienced forever, right? And it's just now that sometimes it kind of shifts the focus and some priority and more resources towards some of these things that we're feeling and experiencing and seeing in communities. What we're doing with Hutch, we have a focus in helping underrepresented communities. So minority founders, female founders within tech. And when you think of even tech nowadays, I mean, what business isn't tech adjacent or tech enabled? It's a completely different shift in what I think we're seeing overall in the landscape and what entrepreneurship looks like. And so being part of a program and being part of a company that is so deeply embedded in community and thinking about multiple ways for us to be able to not only use the resources that we have at our disposal to be able to help impact society, but now to be able to coach and to mentor and teach other entrepreneurs to kind of live out those values as well from day one of starting their business, I think is really impactful. So social impact is embedded in more and more of these companies from day one versus being an add-on or a bonus or something that you do when you hit a different scale. Is completely revolutionizing the way that people think about business.
That's awesome. Matt, I think you actually have a unique perspective. You live social impact, right? That is what the Harlem Park Community Development Corporation is there for. Can you talk a little bit about, Stephanie, you actually mentioned the entrepreneurship spirit, it's alive and well. Do you see that, Matt, at the Harlem Park CDC? Are you seeing more of your community constituents having a desire to start their own companies, having a desire, or maybe not to start their own company, but to just get involved more than they have in the past?
Yes, folks are really active, and honestly, I'm a prime example of social entrepreneurship. I actually pivoted and became a social entrepreneur instead of a regular just entrepreneur, in opening up businesses that actually impact and better the quality of life for folks. So it's really making that social impact. I think that businesses now, because of the coronavirus, have, like Katie said earlier, it's been pretty much putting a magnifying glass on Black and brown communities, poverty-stricken areas, and folks are now having to go ahead and step in to service the communities where their patrons come from, where their customers come from, where their employees come from, to actually do something. And it's sad, it really, it's like a gift and a curse. It really, it's like, wow, the coronavirus has exposed these various different issues that had been existing for years. And it's like, wow, this is a dramatic change. You can see it in policy right now with the new president, with President Biden, and how much money is being flooded, not only to prevent the spread of the coronavirus, but then also how much investment is going into small businesses, entrepreneurs, people that are suffering because of the virus, and also organizations that are getting nonprofits, smaller nonprofits are getting a lot of money. Grassroots organizations are getting a lot of money to do the work that they do in these various different communities.
That's a good point. Small businesses and startup companies that are already doing the work are now being increased. Their funding is being increased because of this pandemic. So let's talk a little bit about the COVID-19 and the effect that it's had on your social impact work within your own companies, within your community, especially Matt. What have you learned in this past year and a half now, a whole year? And how have you used those lessons to kind of rebuild? You talked about, entrepreneurs having to pivot, companies taking a totally different path. Let's talk a little bit about the Harlem Park CDC and what you guys have done, lessons learned, and how you're rebuilding or helping others to rebuild.
Yes, before COVID, honestly, our organization didn't get any funding. Like I stated earlier, I founded the organization back in 2018. I actually was driving Uber in the morning and donating the money that I made from Uber to go ahead and support the organization.
Wow.
And because of the coronavirus, we were able to go ahead and tap into funding from our financial partners at Truist, the Truist Charitable Fund, but also some other organizations as well to serve our community. We had to go ahead and do a pivot on our Healthy Living Initiative to do a COVID rescue response to give folks actually the necessities that they needed so they can combat the virus, but also not catch the virus.
Wow.
You know, when we're talking about face mask and everything, folks in our community, they didn't know what a face mask was. They didn't know what a proper face mask was. They didn't know how to get access to hand sanitizer and all these other PPE materials that are needed to go ahead and not catch the virus. And then also, we just actually had our first vaccine drive with a partnership with Walgreens at Metropolitan United Methodist Church. And it's like, wow, these folks didn't have access to get to the mass vaccination sites that are downtown and stuff. And we're talking about, you know, we are a highly elderly population. The median income in our community is really roughly around $25,000. So you can the education level that exists there, the highest education attainment is a high school diploma. Wow. You have some folks that went to college and are college graduates, but like what was said earlier, the coronavirus just enhanced the awareness of issues in Black and Brown communities that have been existing for years. Now it's like, okay, well, because of this pandemic, this global pandemic, now you got to do something, but these issues have always been here.
It's so true. Go back to, it's bringing the magnifying glass, it's bringing light to the subject and problem that was already at hand. Katie, I'd like to talk to you a little about, maybe you can also talk a little bit about lessons learned in this past year. And I know you've shifted, like you started at STS last year.
In the middle.
Yeah, right in the middle of this pandemic, which is incredible. So how have you guys seen, so I'd like to ask your unique perspective in that, if you could talk a little bit about Zero Model Nova, and also, you know, the switch to STS and how you've seen, you know, your ability to have a social impact in both roles and continue both as well.
Zero Model Nova is a for-profit business incubator to, you know, create a very structured and great resourceful environment for entrepreneurs that are formerly incarcerated. And so the goal of that incubator was a social impact business to really create jobs for people that have criminal histories. And so for me, COVID gave me all the lessons, because I launched a company coming into it saying, I'm going to do this great thing and I'm going to make an impact. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship or business for that matter. And when I tell you I had to learn every lesson, probably the hardest and most expensive way possible, it's not an exaggeration or an understatement. And so it was all of, you know, this culmination of, I felt like I finally had figured it out at the end of 2019. I finally was really driven by my numbers and looking at P&L performance and how to, you know, onboard employees and what that looks like and how to create the culture. And when you deal with people that have had any interaction with the criminal justice system in our country, there are impacts from that, right? Like you're looking at mental health, you're looking at substance abuse, you're looking at housing, like the whole gamut. And so all of these lessons had come together. 2020 was about to be a springboard for all of the businesses within the portfolio to really expand and grow. And then COVID hit in March. And in the beginning of COVID, the PPP funding, when they first released it, people that had criminal histories or that were on probation or parole were not eligible to apply for that funding. And so I was very vocal early on in COVID and like waving the flag and saying, hey, there is not recourse for certain groups of people in our country that are employing people and that have created jobs and are doing well by their communities by doing good, and they have nothing. So their businesses are going to suffer. And so businesses within my portfolio did suffer, and I suffered because of that. And I got to a point where I was like, I'm just here to pivot. I see what it's doing for entrepreneurs that are in the same place that I was early on. They don't know how to read a P&L. They might not even have QuickBooks and are just kind of flying by the seat of their pants and not being responsible and accountable. And so I was, putting myself out there like, hey, if you know a minority business, I'm happy to support them. Let's grow, let's rock, let's pivot together. And so I reached out to Adrian Rich, who's the managing principal of STS, knowing his commitment for minority businesses and just minority support in general. And he was like, hey, how much do you want to pivot? And that turned into us talking about me joining STS and helping them grow and helping them scale. And I got there and it's just been phenomenal ever since. And
Wow.
like I said, that led me into the people, team, and culture position. But all in all, knowing that people drive your business and every single move that you make is impacting your P&L of your company. And I stole it from Adrian, but I'm like, Adrian sub Katie, but he always says like, no margin, no mission. And you can be socially focused all you want, but if you don't have a profit or you aren't about your numbers to use that money to make a difference, you can't do anything. You're
Absolutely.
stuck.
Absolutely. That kind of leads us to another question that I have, but I do want to ask you, Stephanie, next about the Hutch program in and of itself. I know this is a 24-month program. So when did this launched last year, right?
Yeah, we have 3 cohorts.
Yeah.
So we graduated our inaugural cohort in December 2020. So they had completely virtual graduation, which is definitely not the same experience for sure. And it's not the same level of excitement and celebration. But for our other cohorts, our second one, they had 2 sessions in person and then it quickly all went remote. And then for our newest cohort that just started this year, they've been remote this entire time. So they've never even met each other.
You guys have seen this talk about shifting and pivoting, and you guys are not so Fearless is not a brand new, true, they're not in the weeds in this as a startup, well established here in Baltimore, well known, but still, so the Hutch program is fairly new, even within Fearless. So pivoting and seeing how your work has really been affected by COVID-19, what lessons have you learned, obviously, other than virtual, in person, hybrid, like all those things that we're all kind of learning as we go? And I think a lot of us have gotten pretty good at it. What are some of the lessons learned that you guys have seen in your, social impact work with your CEOs, with your startup CEOs within Hutch?
Yeah, absolutely. Hutch itself, we kind of think of it as a baby startup since this program is still fairly new. So absolutely, Hutch is kind of its own little startup within Fearless for sure. So obviously, we've had to make the pivot to being virtual, but at the same time, I think this pivot, it kind of alleviated some barriers to access. So, we're a Baltimore-based program, and yet this has been a good opportunity for us to be able to test what it would look like to be able to more broadly support entrepreneurs across the nation. Because everything is Zoom, because people are so adept now at being virtual, it's kind of been a good test for us to see, can we replicate a similar value additive experience to supporting entrepreneurs who aren't within Baltimore, aren't within Maryland, or driving distance? Our cohorts meet once a month. So, they've made the commitment. We have 2 companies outside of Maryland right now in our newest cohort that have made the commitment to, if and when we do resume in-person class sessions, that they will come to Baltimore specifically for that. And we're really excited about that. But I think it's a really good test for us, because what a disservice it would be if we were only limited to working with folks within driving distance and kind of, where our program is based out of. So it's been a good test for that, and definitely some good lessons learned. And I think it's also just brought about a whole new level of self-awareness and empathy, and making sure that we care for one another as individuals first, and being really cognizant of that. And I think that definitely carries over into the way that we conduct business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. So I want to get on to our next question. We've already touched all of you have already touched on this a little bit. What does it mean to be in the business of doing good? I mean, obviously, you are all here for a reason. We reached out to each of you because of your specific and unique roles in the places where you are. So, Matt, I'd like to start with you, talking about what does it mean to be in the business of doing good?
There was a principle that I've lived by thus far, being in business, and it's if you take care of the people, you will always make money. If you take care of the people, you will always generate money. You will always have business, but also the joy of providing something for
Yes.
someone else that they can't provide for themselves.
Mm.
Some of the things that the joy that I got from this whole COVID experience, and it happened before COVID, but COVID just enhanced it, when we were able to go ahead and provide food for kids, for the students at Harlem Park Elementary School that didn't have food because the school wasn't open. And they were only getting fed when they were in school. So the satisfaction from that actually warmed my heart, because it's something that, these kids, and they're in this situation that they didn't have any control over. They didn't ask to be in this situation. Their parents might be, and we're talking about people that are in our community that are blue collar workers, that are, essential workers and everything. So they're not even, when school's not in session, these kids are not even getting fed, might not be getting fed at home because of their parents working 3 or 4 jobs, or their parents dealing with various different addictions that they might be on. So the satisfaction of not only giving them, an opportunity to feed themselves, if it was for that day or 2 days or a week, but also giving families the opportunity to go ahead and get food for a month, from providing them food through our family food giveaways that we do on a monthly basis. So the satisfaction that I got, from that, and it's not always about making money. And I think that's what people have to understand. You will always make money if you take care of someone else. And that's what the main focus should be. And I think because of COVID, a lot of now, quote unquote, Fortune 500 companies, but a lot also other companies as well, are taking that bull by the horn and running with it, because they're starting to see exactly that. We need to start taking care of our customers that do business with us. We need to start taking care of our employees better. There's some concerns that we need to go ahead and address in the way that we do business. And I think COVID was able to let folks sit back, take a pause for a second, sit in their operation wherever they're at, socially distancing and stuff like that, to actually say, hey, listen, these are the holes that we need to fix. Because they had a lot of folks, think about it. There's a lot of businesses right now that are not going back to their offices.
Yeah.
Because
Yep. So true. Betamore is a co-working space here in Baltimore. And, though early on, a lot of our members, we worked with them to defer their membership, some of them, but a lot of them ended up having to cancel altogether. Some of them, they no longer are in business. Some are in business, not able to come back yet. And there are actually quite a few that have stayed and have been able to thrive during this time. And though it's quiet here a lot of the time, people are coming back little by little. People are coming back, and we're so really glad to see that. So Katie, I want to ask you as well. So again, your role is very unique in what you have for your for-profit, Zero Model Nova, and then now your new role at STS. What have you seen in particular in STS, and talking about what it is to be in the business of doing good? What have you seen at STS where, Matt, I think you mentioned this, you're not only doing things to focus, you are the director of people, team, and culture. So what have you done there to shift or improve, company culture, but also what have you done to improve the client experience as well?
The one thing I think I'm most proud of at STS is that I'm all about let's blow people's minds. Let's really bring forth innovative solutions, and let's do it with people who sometimes, like, somebody might look at and say, oh, I had no idea that that group of people were, capable of doing this, whether that's women, whether that's minorities, whatever that might be, just to create that wow factor and bringing people to the table and having real conversations and being honest. And when we talk about STS and my role and where we are, it's having real conversations. We have the apprenticeship program, like I mentioned before, and saying our intention is to put you on, get you into a billable role. And we want to pour into you and fill gaps in your career experience to get you to that next level and to create that real on-ramp and still give you the guardrails and the support that you need once you get here. Because I've had to learn federal government contracting just since last summer, and it's intense. It's a lot coming from not knowing anything. I'm like, whoa, all these acronyms. I used to tell everybody I felt like I was being assaulted by the alphabet letters that you put on the refrigerator. Like, 'cause that's what it felt like when you don't know what's happening. But in terms of STS, we are a collaborative company that just really believes in the power of our people and listening to our people. We, are paying attention to what people are saying, what impacts them, and having, early on, I think, or over the holidays, what really showed me I was in the right place was Adrian came back and we had one of our first leadership meetings after Thanksgiving. And he was like, what can we do for our team over the next holiday? Because I was really feeling some sort of way and not being able to connect with my family over this time. And so challenging us to rethink how we can be innovative virtually and, prevent Zoom fatigue and everything that comes along with that. So it's mindfulness, it's paying attention, it's listening to people. And in the true entrepreneurial spirit, what's not working, you pivot very quickly.
Yes.
Like you fix it quickly because there's a lot at stake.
Yeah, you can't afford not to, right? So one of our, we actually have a sign here at Betamore that says, move fast and break shit or something,
I have that on
like
my
that.
Instagram.
Okay, yeah.
I took a picture of it. Yeah.
And that's our motto, right? As all of us here, we support entrepreneurs, we support startups, we support, budding entrepreneurs, in our communities. And what do? You need to move fast and break shit to get it done. Stephanie, what have you guys done in moving fast and breaking shit at the, within the Hutch program in the last year that, you feel that you feel that's what it is to be in the business of doing good?
Yeah, absolutely. I think being in the business of doing good is purpose over profit. And so having that baked into your company culture, I think is really important. A lot of what we teach, a lot of what we practice is agile methodology and lean startup methodology. So how can you just work with the resources that you have to get to your minimum viable product, just something that you can put out there and just start testing and iterating from and getting feedback. So that is a core piece of our curriculum, but it's also a core piece of just the culture within Fearless and Hutch for sure. So being able to test things out and see what works and what doesn't work. I think that's, figuring out what goes wrong and how to fix that or how to address that is equally or maybe even more valuable than getting it perfectly right the first time around.
Amen to that. Actually, that's really funny because in the beginning stages of when we were talking about Founder City and, what we wanted to do, Stephanie, Matt, Katie, I think you're all familiar with Beta City, Betamore's annual fundraising event that we've been doing since 2015. And when we last year decided to not have it for obvious reasons, and we shifted to this idea of Founder City, what can we do to make it better and bigger than just Baltimore, and partnering with the Frederick Innovative Technology Center was a great way to do that. So we kind of see us like literally bridging the gap from over there in Maryland to here and in downtown Baltimore. And what Founder City in and of itself was a, move fast and and break it, move fast and break shit. And we started and we were like, let's all this planning. And then we're like, no, we're all entrepreneurs. What do? We build it as we go. You make it happen. If you stop, and you have to have your perfect business plan. And, Katie, you talked about supporting, your previously incarcerated, clientele. About a lot of them don't know how to read a P&L and like all these things that you're supposed to have in place when you're building things and getting it right. Like, no, that's just not how we work. So in building out Founder City and building out all of Matt, you kind of shared the same thing. Like, you saw a need, you wanted to, fix it, fill that need, and here we are. You just go with it, you run with it, you build it as you go. So a couple more things here that I want to talk about. I want to talk about your individual company's culture, what it's like to work at Fearless, what it's like to work at STS, and Matt, what it's like to work there as, the executive director. And are you the only employee, I assume, of the Harlem Park CDC?
No, we have 5 employees.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Where did I get that information? I guess I'm used to being right now. I am the only employee at Betamore. So, it's been an interesting ride for sure. So Matt, let's start with you. Share a little bit about your company culture at, Harlem Park CDC.
Yeah. So as I stated earlier, we have 5 employees. I'm actually the only one that is actually in Baltimore. The rest of them are remote. Some of them are in Baltimore County, up in the Windsor Mill area. One just relocated from Michigan and Tampa. Another one is down in the Upper Marlboro area. And then the last one is down in the Miami, Florida area. And pretty much just we had to, our culture, I have an open door policy at our organization. And pretty much it's whatever you're feeling at that time, come in and talk. I think that anything can be addressed by having a conversation. One of the things that we definitely do, and I took this from, my fraternity, is that we have sensitivity meetings. So folks got to get things off of their chest, because ultimately you cannot conduct business in an effective way if people are in their feelings. But then also as a executive director, as a CEO of an organization, you have to know exactly how your employees are feeling about what your management style might be. Yes. And also how are you conducting business at that time. You have to have the checks and balances in place to be productive. And it's all about, what you're doing. Optics are important. Ethics are important. Business ethics are important. Yes. And I think that people are forgetting a lot about that. You can see it in this whole PPP scandal thing, where folks are getting, money from the government for doing fraudulent activity and, stuff like that.
It is amazing.
Some of the things that we're seeing right now, and it's sad to say, but we're seeing that in the city government in Baltimore with corruption and everything. So there's a lot of various different checks and balances that is needed to run an effective organization. And those are some of the things in our company culture, organization culture, that we actually have at the Harlem Park CDC.
Transparency, right? Transparency with yourself. That starts with the individual. Stephanie, what has it been like working? Now, when you came into Fearless, you came in as the Hutch Program manager, correct?
Exactly. And Katie and I actually have something in common, where we both joined new teams and new roles in the middle of a pandemic. So that's been an interesting journey to navigate.
For sure.
So what is it like working at Fearless? What is the culture like there? For those of us watching either live or, down the road that aren't familiar with Fearless here in Baltimore, tell us a little bit more about what you think really makes it special, the culture there at Fearless.
Yeah, absolutely. Fearless is a place where, I feel like it's given me so much more than what I even was looking for. I found things that I didn't know I was really searching for, but I landed in a place where I'm like, all right, this is my tribe. Like, yeah. And that's such a good feeling to have, and to be able to work with folks who are so talented, so passionate about what they do is really refreshing. And to be able to work with entrepreneurs through my role directly with Hutch, who are so passionate about using business as a vehicle to enact change in a larger way. So the culture, I think, at Fearless, I mean, COVID and being completely virtual, that's kind of been a pressure test to see how can your company culture carry forward when you're not all together.
Absolutely.
It's definitely something that you don't want to take for granted. But for me to be a new hire in a virtual format, I think it really speaks a lot to the culture that Fearless has built over the past decade, to be able to feel that level of care from people that you've never even met in person.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. I didn't even think about that. Katie, you're in a similar situation. You shifted and pivoted and you're in a new role as of, did you say last September? July, I'm sorry. So right in the middle of the height of things, really. So what has it been, what has your shift to STS been like for you? And what do you feel like makes it really a special culture? And as the director of people team and culture at STS, what is your mission? What are the things that you're focusing on for, like you said before, not only your employees, but also you are focusing on your clients as well. So what are some things for us to keep in mind as, again, this session is being viewed by, all kinds of entrepreneurs. So what can they keep in mind when they're building their company and going from, 0 to 1,000 to 100,000 to 1,000,000? What can they do to really keep a focus and keeps company culture as a positive company culture as a priority within their own business?
Kimmy, you just said a lot, but I'm
sorry.
I'm going to answer it my way. If I don't answer some of it, y'all can get me later. But so entrepreneurship and business ownership will be your biggest self-discovery vehicle in your life. And so it will, again, magnifying glass on how you operate. If you think your weaknesses, that you can just keep them at home and, the things that you're scared of, the things that you don't want to do, it's again going to show up at a 10x level in front of your team every single day in any leader, not just a business owner. And so when it comes to culture, it's important, I think, when we talk about leaders, we talk about entrepreneurs, is use everything as a lesson, and you build, you grow, you evolve. You build, you grow, you evolve. And in terms of culture, it starts with trust. It starts with being vulnerable. When I joined STS, I didn't know anything. I joke with people now, we are a lean, agile company as well. And when Adrian first sent the bullets of what STS does, he talked about DevOps, DevSecOps, and data science and AI and ML. And I was like, I don't know what any of these bullets mean. I don't know one of these things.
Gibberish.
And so but I came into STS being fully vulnerable. I don't know, I'm here to learn, I'm here to grow. And that's really the culture of STS. Mind you, our engineers and our team are amazing. And they, with their innovation and what they do every single day on our contracts, but they taught me and they poured into me. And they were like, we're going to learn together. And there was no judgment. There was no, nobody looked down on me to say, oh, you don't know GovCon, you don't know technology. And now I'm in a space where I feel empowered every single day that then allows me to empower others. And going back to the entrepreneur piece, you have to, as a business owner, make it yourself, because I say you can't send the elevator down from the second floor because somebody could take the stairs. The goal is you make it to the top floor, you make it to the penthouse, and you send the elevator down as many times as possible. But that requires growth, and that requires checking yourself. That requires being vulnerable and surrounding yourself with a team that can help you get there, so you guys can keep the elevator going every single day. So I don't know if I answered your question.
You did.
Okay.
You did. What are some things that we can say to these entrepreneurs and, future CEOs? Maybe somebody's watching right now
and it's the thought in the back of their mind. But this has really been awesome. I have one more question, and I'm not going to point it to anybody specifically. So one more thing: is there anything that you could advise a future CEO, future startup entrepreneur in launching and running a social enterprise? What are some key takeaways, some key advice, some priorities that you would see in being key in launching their own social enterprise? Anyone want to take a stab?
I feel bad for going, but
It's all good. Don't feel bad.
I just talk to people a lot. You can have the drive and you can have the passion. At the end of the day, you have to put on your business owner hat, and you have to have the hard conversations, and you have to learn, at least be willing to learn business processes and business structure. And with that learning and with that evolution of you becoming a bomb business owner, you then can have your impact. And what I said before, the mission and the margin thing, because
Yes.
what I learned is I came at it trying to empower people and, put people into jobs and create jobs, but I didn't have it yet. And so my shortcomings in business impacted my team. And, when I had to do layoffs and when I had to shut down companies, that hurts. I was embarrassed at first to announce that I was going to STS because I felt like I had failed in terms of entrepreneurship. And yet I've been able to grow so much more with my team and to learn agile and lean and Kanban and just think differently and iterate. Like, it's been transformational. And so my advice would be, do what you can with what you have and continue to grow and take the hits. They're going to come, and then you do good in the process. But grow your business, learn your business, pivot when necessary. And again, send the elevator back down every floor you go up.
I like it. Go straight to the penthouse and then send it down. That's great. I think we're going to wrap this up. Unless Stephanie or Matt, do you have any last comments here on what Stephanie just shared? No, what Katie just shared.
I think my takeaway would just be, I don't care what type of business you're in, what industry, what you're selling, you are in the business of people. So whether that's, whatever widget you're selling, whatever it might be, I mean, take care of your people, take care of your people within your organization, take care of your customers, take care of the end users, always do everything with a human-centered approach.
I love that. Matt, I think you were going to chime in.
Yeah, my takeaway would be is put your pride in your back pocket. You can't be the smart to be successful in business. You can't be the smartest person in the room. Always network, and then also believe in a higher being, because you're going to be put in certain situations where when things hit the fan, people are going to look up at you for solutions. But ultimately, you have to come up with an idea. You have to solve that problem when you got to put fires out when they occur. But you have to believe in a higher being, because it's like in being an entrepreneur, you're on a roller coaster. It's like this. It's up and down. It's crazy. Some days you wake up, it's like, oh my God, I'm doing the best thing. Yes. The next day you wake up like, oh, why did I leave my job to go ahead and do this? And I've been there. Honestly, I had people, my family members looked at me crazy when I opened up the CDC and told them, hey, listen, I'm putting my financial service company, my life insurance business and real estate business to the back burner, because I really want to service and help the community, because I see this dramatic decline since I've been here, and I got to do something as a stakeholder for this community. People thought I was crazy. And now, from the success and the work and impact that we've been doing in our community, people are sitting up here saying, oh, well, wow, you're doing great work and all this other stuff, not realizing that we've been doing the work since the beginning. Yeah. But I had to go ahead and not only get closer to God, I joined my church, which is right in the Metropolitan United Methodist Church, which is right in Holland Park, right down the street from my house. But also it's just getting really centered in Zen and doing a lot of self-care as an entrepreneur. Do some self-care for yourself.
Take care of yourself. Yeah.
You're going to have those days where it's like, wow, you're going to be second guessing everything. Yeah. But you cannot be successful as a CEO, entrepreneur, the head person in charge, if you don't have the right people around you to
So
support you.
true. So true. Guys, thank you so much for joining this Founder City session today. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Don't forget to check out foundercity.com for more information about this virtual content. Today, we talked about social impact and company culture. We have a number of other topics already on the website, and we've got more coming for you. So again, Betamore and Fitzy are both so thankful for your guys' involvement today in the session, bringing this content to our ecosystem, to our community, to the future entrepreneurs of Maryland, and to those who are doing the pivoting and the shifting and all these things that we talked about today. This was just an awesome conversation. I think we're all walking away enlightened and really have some amazing takeaways that we can all implement in our own roles and where we are. So again, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.